treat. Pizza, pizza, fun to eat. Stringy, gooey, cheese so yummy. Pepperoni in my tummy. Pizza, pizza, it's a treat. Pizza, pizza, fun to eat.
Mom, get off the phone. The podcast is starting.
Yeah, dude, you can't be on that dial-up when we're starting to record. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode of the Golden Dice Podcast. As exciting as it was last week to have Tommy, sadly he's not back, so we're stuck with Shane, but we got him off AOL this week, so he's his parents are off the phone. He's ready to roll.
Let's do it.
All right, so this week was actually interesting for me and Shane, as we got to play in our first official trilogy tournament. We've kind of played a few games of that before, but nothing really. It would be more of us just kind of throwing together a deck and saying hey, trilogies, rather than actual competitiveness going into it.
Yeah, for sure.
So just we'll break round by round down, but general thoughts. Did you say you had a good time? Do you prefer standard or the same, or?
Yeah, I mean, I had a fun. It wasn't I wasn't really.
You had a fun?
I had a ton of fun. It wasn't really, a situation where I was getting burnt out of standard, like some people who were going to a ton of regionals may have been. But it still felt cool to, go to a tournament and not sit down against Seven Sister for once. So, there's that aspect to it.
Yeah, you just sit down across from Talzin. It's still a blue female, low-cost character.
Can't get away from him. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same, but I liked it. I wasn't burnt out from standard, but I don't know. It even feels like there's more variety in standard than there is in trilogies. And that's a very limited, experience. I go in there, the top decks seem to be Hero Mill or some version of Talzin with two partners, whether it's two Stormtroopers or Greedo and Phasma. So it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was cool seeing different stuff. I still played Yoda Hondo, so it's not really much variation. I played Boba Phasma twice, so that's not much variation.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I liked it. I had fun. But yeah, so I brought Greedo's girls. So that's Talzin, Phasma, and Greedo. And I almost forgot. Yeah. He just sends him and doesn't go to the battle.
Right, he just rolls blanks.
You know what? Honestly, it felt like it at times. It felt like he was just there as a bystander.
Yep.
Doing nothing. But either way, I played our friend Flockton, who we've mentioned before, and he had Boba Phasma, I believe, is what he was running. And he was running the battlefield where it's claim, doing indirect to yourself and doing unblockable damage to an opponent. And I killed both of his characters with that.
Yeah.
So that was that. The last one you can't help, because obviously if you're at lethal, I claim literally my next action. If you claim to prevent me from doing it, your first action next round also has to be to claim. And obviously if you're doing that, you're going to lose. So, but his second character, he just totally forgot. Or sorry, his first character, he just totally forgot. So
yeah,
but the deck seemed to perform that round as compared to other rounds. So yeah, so first round started 1-0. Against Boba Phasma.
Yeah, I brought. I actually wanted to take this one slightly competitive, just to kind of try to prove myself. I've actually never done well at this particular store. I've done decent or won a few tournaments at the other store we play at, but this one I've never done well. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just take in a deck that I think is probably the best deck in trilogies, or a version of the best deck in trilogies, or at least top 2 or 3. And normally that's not me. Normally I just run some crazy stuff that makes no sense, but I brought Yoda, Partisan, and Jar Jar as mill, and I put Jar Jar in there because I think he slows down the mill a little bit, but overall I think he keeps you alive a lot longer. I think he has a lot of other benefits over the second Partisan. My first round was against Han and Poe, so new Poe, new Han, and it felt fine most of the time. There's a lot of 2 guns in that, so I got easy pickings off early. I got a couple into the garbage chutes from the Partisan. A lot of times in most of these games, I was just Jar Jar would be rolled out by them, and I'd have to re-roll my Yoda dice. But, most of the time when you're re-rolling 2 Yoda dice, you're bound to get one of the specials anyway. And all you need is one special in that, and then you just finish your chain of Yoda's dice and Force Meditation. So this game was just kind of a super easy control at the beginning, and then I just kind of carried that control throughout and ended up winning that one.
All right, so we both start off 1 and 2, and then let me tell you, round second, I play this freaking idiot walks into the store with a mill deck, and dude, he's playing Jar Jar in that mill deck. Dude's a moron. Yeah. I play him second round.
I heard he has a 6-pack though. I saw him in the shower once.
His six packs. Dude, I heard his lightsaber is really cool. Do you want him to go get it real quick?
Yeah, I'll go grab it.
Oh, look how cool it is. Look. So I played Shane second round, and he actually cheated, and the TO ruled in his favor, and that didn't happen. He beat me. But
Yeah. Jack lost in casual. No, this was tight. I think we played 2 games the night before, 2 nights before that, or whatever it was, and they were both not as tight as this one. This one was super tight. I think I only had like 2 health left, and you actually won the battlefield roll this time, I believe, right? Because you had your battlefield.
Yeah. Phasma and Greedo are awful. So that's 3 dice with 2 blanks on them, basically, because of course, Phasma special counts as 0.
Yeah, so you're not going to win a ton, but it definitely hurt. It was one of the few games I didn't have my battlefield, and it definitely hurt not having it. I just didn't get that extra mill a turn, so I feel like I was milling you super slow. You killed Partisan first this time, right? Just because I put something on him and you just blasted him off the board.
You didn't put anything on the Partisan. You cautioned 3 shields on a Jar Jar.
No, I didn't caution 3 shields. What? That's not a Trilogies tournament.
Or it's caution. You know what? You put 2 shields, I think, on Jar Jar to start with, then resolved Yoda's down and put another one. All I remember is that he had 3 shields super fast, and I'm so used to standard. So if you had 3 shields, I just think caution.
Yeah. It might have been the height and awareness, which is like the 2 cost caution.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, so something like that, and yeah, you ended up just getting like super close. Like I said, I mean, it was just you didn't have enough pitches to reroll at the right time, and you were just rolling blanks. So it could have been either way. That was the tightest game.
Yeah, it was super tight. Jar Jar, I think, had 2 health left by the time I was milled out. And I had lethal, but you had a entangle on you to get rid of a 3 on a Canobite and a Phasma special. So that's like 5, potentially 6 damage if it played out right.
Yeah, entangled. That's the reason I took this deck. It's just the removal package for that deck is just crazy. I mean, 2 easy pickings, 2 into the garbage chute, 2 entangle, 2 height and awareness, and that's like blowout removal right there. I'm not even talking about like misleads and just other simpler things, but yeah, that's why I took it, because I figured you're not going to be able to put out as much damage, so hopefully I can mitigate a ton of it. Yeah,
that's why I actually prefer to, against that deck, almost go for the side characters first. I mean, Yoda's super annoying late game with special chaining and getting shields and stuff like that, but I still feel like, I have Frightened, so I'm able to get around that type of stuff. But I think just going for Jar Jar and going for the Partisans better, and I actually prefer Jar Jar first just to take away those extra rerolls.
Yep.
And I think that's why part of another reason the first 2 games we played is I got away from my strategy sometimes. A lot of times I like to activate Jar Jar first and just take away that potential reroll of my dice.
Yep.
And now that helps you, of course, because then you're like an action ahead, or you could vandalize right away like you have done at times.
Yep.
But I just like to take him out first, but you shielded him up, so I didn't feel like burning through all that. Didn't have Intimidate or Frighten in my hand. Yeah, so I didn't have that, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to take out the Partisan. But still having that second yellow character for all that really good mitigation hurt a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people misplayed against Jar Jar. I feel like it's just a reps thing. I mean, people were trying to get rerolls of their own dice, and like they're thinking about pitching, and then they're like, you know what, I guess I'll just do something else, and like they could have just activated my Jar Jar to get their dice to reroll, and like I saw that multiple times where like people just weren't super used to Jar Jar yet, and I mean I get that he's not really seen in too many decks right now, but it definitely, if they had more reps against him, I think I would have been slightly worse off for a few of those games.
Yeah, and that's what I think he is. And like I said, it's like if you're trying to or as you mentioned, if you're trying to get rerolls off him, that's a double-edged sword. Because if you roll out and you roll poorly, you're like, oh, perfect, I'll activate Jar Jar. But then it's the other way. If you roll great, then you as the controller of Jar Jar will just activate him and make him reroll everything. Yeah, so it's like it's not the best situation. I think you just have to make him activate first. If he disrupts you or discards you, it happens. It's better than him rerolling, 6 to 7 or whatever damage you might have showing. So.
Yep, totally agree.
Cool. So that's our game. Shane got real lucky, and I don't think it counts. Moving on to round 3. This one I played Yoda Hondo, and I'm just so tired of Talzin decks, and I don't know why I brought it really. I just wanted to kind of try out what deck I thought could have been one of the better ones that has been doing well at Galactic Qualifiers and stuff. And just going against Hondo just wasn't very fun. I was able to discard his first Force Wave really quick, actually, with Talzin's discard side, but then he just next turn played one. I was like, well, all right, that's that. So he got a Force Wave out turn 2, and that kind of was able to finish out the game. And Yoda, starving me, or not Yoda, Hondo starving me of resources in a deck that's already running very expensive cards was not fun.
Yeah, and 3 wide and Force Wave is just going to do work every turn, and that's going to hurt.
So 1 and 2.
So I go in 2-0 after beating that loser Jack in round 2. I have to play the loser Joe. So he also brought Yoda Partisan, but instead of Jar Jar, he put a second Partisan in. And we had played a game or two the night before, or the other night again, and both times he closed it out with like 2 or 3 cards left in hand, none left in deck, and I'm stuck there without anything. So that is pretty much the same exact story. I think he actually even did it better this time, though. I lost, I think, when I had 5 cards left, or maybe even, or he had 5 cards left, or maybe 4, something like that. But yeah, I think Jar Jar is really nice against the more damage dealing decks. When they forced me to activate him, and then I just vandalized their 2-cost upgrade, that's brutal. But I think against the mill to mill, and I only have like 2 or 3 games experience against this, it just seems like he could mill me faster. He's just getting, all my mitigation cards really don't matter a ton. All of his mitigation cards don't really matter a ton. All that matters is getting cards off his deck, and he can just do that slightly faster with the double partisan ability clicking every time. I have no way to kill a partisan, so he's just milling it a lot quicker. So Joe wins that game. So now I'm 2-1 and he's 3-0.
Did he still run Espionage?
He did run Espionage, yes.
I remember in your practice game, the night before that weekend, he ran Espionage and it discarded nothing from you, and it discarded his Force Meditation.
Yeah, and then I vandalized his Force Meditation he put out, but he still won that. I think the Partisans really just they make up for it. They get a lot of mill out, and that deck also is just, if I draw all of my mitigation, I can't pitch it to draw new cards. I want to see my strength through weakness and stuff, but I can't pitch it because then I'm just losing cards and helping him out anyway. So that type of thing gets frustrating. And it's did I see my strength through weakness? No. Did he? Maybe. Did I see my Bespin Wingard quick enough? Not sure. It's just those little types of things, and you really can't help but, you can't pitch your cards. You got to keep all of them. So you got to play with what you get.
Yeah. That's how Mill feels sometimes. If you draw the right cards in the right spots, you're going to do well, but it just seems reliant on that draw at times. But most decks, you could say the same.
That's very true.
All right, so that's round 3. So you're 2-1. I'm 1-2, and I play Boba Phasma again this round and was able to take it home again. I don't really remember anything too notable. It's just, I have bigger damage sides, more health, and was just kind of able to outlast. Boba Phasma is really good with quick draw and an ambush weapon, but what does he have? He has hidden blasters, and that's it for ambush weapons, I believe. He had Callus Bow Rifle also. I remember he got that out, but that's not super good. It doesn't click well with his deck, and especially I killed Boba first to take away any entangles and also potential Boba specials, because who knows what he was going to do. So, right. I was able to take out Boba first and just kind of wrap the game up from there.
That sounds pretty good. I go on the round 4, but here's the problem with round 4, and I have to go on a mini rant here. So Tome, the system that FFG provides that you're supposed to use for tournaments, is absolute garbage. So, and here's why. So we go into round 4 with a 10-person tournament. I don't think we mentioned we had 10 people, which is awesome, by the way. 10 people, that's really cool. Having, I think that's our 3rd tournament in a row, right? With double digits, so that's awesome. But Tome sets this matchup in probably the worst way possible. So we go into round 4. There is a 3-0, that is Joe. Then we have 4 2-1s. We have 4 1-2s, and then we have an 0-3. So Tome decides, well, all those 2-1s, since there's 4 of them, they should play each other. All the 1-2s, since there's 4 of them, they should play each other, which leaves the 3-0 person stuck playing the 0-3 person.
Seems logical, dude.
The dumbest thing you can possibly do. And this is not the first time it's done that. We've actually, in one of a draft at Jack's house, the same thing has happened, where you got paired with a 0-2 and you were 2-0.
At least the draft maybe has an excuse of having 6 people.
Yes,
I get it, having to work around, but it's still dumb. Not excusing it completely, but the fact that a 10-person tournament it pairs a 3-0 against an 0-3, come on. It
makes no sense. There's no buys. You don't have to worry about anyone already having a buy. There's nothing. The priority needs to change for Tome, where instead of pairing equally scheduled people, you got to pair from the top bottom. You have to pair starting with the 3-0, so they get paired with the 2-1 who got placed up, and then you go down from there. It doesn't matter if another 2-1 gets paired down to a 1-2, but you can't have a 3-0 person playing an 0-3 person at this time.
I think it's supposed to be paired that way. I just don't understand why that happened.
I just don't know why that happened. And here's the funny thing. I can't complain. So I go into round 4, I mean. I win against the same deck Jack was playing. Pretty tight game, back and forth. I just saw the removal when I needed it most. I saw it at the end. I got both my easy pickings. Really easy removal situation at the end when a lot of twos were on the board, and I snuck out that wind. So I'm 3-1. Joe got pared down to an 0-3. Shout out to Tyler or Flockton. Flockton steps up and smacks Joe down.
Flockton, baby. Let's
Flockton,
go.
the most clutch performance of his
0-3
lifetime.
takes it home.
I've known
man.
him forever, and the 0-3 comes up, smacks the 3-0. I win the tournament in one of the dumbest fashions ever. So I'm complaining about it, even though I won. But it's just that should never happen. That pairing system just makes no sense to me at all.
It's all right. Now you can use that store credit you got to play Legion with me.
And now I can play Legion with Jack. So, like, you know what? Shout out to Tome. Shout out to Flockton.
Thank you, FFG. Thank you.
Great work by both of you guys.
Yeah, Flockton, even at that point, I think was getting frustrated because I think out of the 10 of us, 3 were running Greedo's Girls, and he played all 3.
He did, yep.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, like any deck you play 3 times, like in a local tournament, you're just kind of like, all right, come on.
Yep. Yeah, and then, he had to play Joe, and Joe's just a bad person, but...
Dude, I've seen that guy at Wawa twice this past week in my morning. If that becomes a part of my routine, I think I'll probably quit my job and move to a new state.
For all you non-Jersey people, Wawa, if you don't know what that is, just picture like heaven, and then you got it.
Think of 7-Eleven, but actually classy.
Pretty much.
Cool. So that's that for our trilogy weekly tournament. Tome messed up, and it is crazy to think about at this point. Regional season is officially over, man.
It's done.
That's all we talk about. So I guess our podcast is done, right?
Came and went. Yep.
All right. So we're at 16:30 seconds. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and see you next time. Which is never. No, but so one of our first, it was like our first, second, or third episode. We did the same analysis. I broke the winners down into pie charts and pizza charts, of course, of the Empire War meta, and saw how that broke down. And a few weeks ago, we did it again as a midway point, just to see where the meta was at, and to round it all out, we're bringing the pizza back out.
It's back.
So we're going to go through, and of course, these images are going to be on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page. So if you are interested to actually see them and physically look at them and share them to any of your groups or anything like that, they are readily available for you guys to do that. So, of course, we're going to start out with our winners. But before we get into this, I want to reference back to our Empire at War metas. Those pictures are also still up, and we posted them way back in January, so I might have to do a little digging through our photos on Facebook. But out of all the regionals, there were 7 R2P2 winners, 2 Kylo 2 Vader 2 winners, and 1 Sabine Ezra. So that is 70% of the winners, the winning decks, are R2P2s, 20% was the Kylo decks, and 10% was Sabine. That is awful.
Yeah, that's bad.
Any meta where the winning deck is 70% is just awful. And that's everybody knows that. But just to have that reference point of 70%, I wanted you guys to be able to see that. So moving on to our winning decks and how they placed. And I'll just read, this will be the only one I read through just because it's shorter. There's only 15 different decks I have to read as compared to top 8 where there's like 1,000.
Yeah.
So we'll start off. Bro TK and Hero Vehicles are tied for first with 5 winners. Then Boba 7th and Yoda Hondo both have 4. And then Sabine Ezra, Hero Mill with the Riken Yoda Jeddah, Poe 2 Ayla, and Eric Wainwright himself all have 2 wins. And Eric Wainwright himself is, of course, that Ayla Padawan deck. But in the pie chart, it will just be Eric Wainwright because it is him. And then the rest of these are just going to be one-offs. It'll be the Poe 2 Hondo. It'll be Kylo Talzin, Obi-Wan Maz, Tarkin 7 Sister, Mother Bala Trooper, Sabine Yoda, and Kylo 2 Anakin. And with that, right, the reference point of 70% at R2P2, Hero Vehicles is 15.2%, and OTK is 15.2%. So the top 2 winning decks make up 30% of that circle, which is less than half of what R2P2 even was, which is very exciting and good news for anybody that was curious about what's been winning and how the meta's been shaping out, in case you weren't, really aware of keeping up week to week. I'm just really happy with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's really just awesome. Honestly, there's not much to say about it other than the fact it's so diverse. There's so much going on. I mean, you can go to any regional and, you won't have the same fate Tyler did at our just weekly. You'll play a bunch of different stuff. Whether you like the decks or not, you're going to play a ton of them. And it's it's there's so many people complaining about Sabine, so many people complaining about one turn kill, and it's all over the place. Nothing's ruling right now. Everything's got a fair shot, which is really cool.
And it's interesting too, because it's like not just certain decks are coming out, it's like archetypes. You can change your archetype in different ways. Like I said, I mean, you have Yoda who can go with Hondo or Poe. You got the Poe Aylas, the old R2-P2. Hero Blue can go in the form of the Ayla Padawans or Rey Aylas we've seen, and then Kylo can go with Anakin or Talzin. It's just Sabine can go with Yoda or Ezra. Like, there's so many different options. Like, it's not just one deck pairing. Like, it's not just FN Bala Trooper or Poe Maz, and there's no variation really within that, unless you're Tommy and you run Kylo, original Kylo, FN Trooper.
Yeah.
But it was just very little variation in the times, the metas before this, aside from Awakenings, really. So it's just cool to see not only characters really doing well and certain types of decks doing well, but the variance between those archetypes of decks. So
yeah, it's really promising, honestly. You can, like you're saying, and even further than that, like, Maz Obi-Wan is sort of in the same archetype as Sabine Ezra, as you see with running interference plays and stuff like that. So like two different characters are playing a very similar type of deck, and it's cool to see that you can really do anything like that, and you're just gonna, you have a chance. You got a fighting chance no matter what. If you're bringing something relative, you have a fighting chance against everything else that's relative. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. Runner-ups, I'll just read off the first top 5 just so you guys have an idea. And again, this numbering is based on where they finished. So a winner is not being counted in the top 8, right? So it's everybody who finished in the top 8, and then we move up and everybody finishing in the top 4, and then all the runner-ups and all the winners, just to clarify with everybody. So if a Kylo Talzin wins a regional, it's not also that number isn't going to show up in runner-up, top 4, and top 8, just so everybody knows. That is clarified. But yeah, so runner-ups, I'll just read off the top 5. We got Kylo Talzin with 5 runner-ups. We have Poe Hondo with 4. Sabine Ezra with 3. Obi-Wan Maz with 3. And then Hero Vehicles with 2. And Boba 7 and Hero Mill also have 2. So just to round that off, since they have the same number. Again, it's kind of funny to see Kylo Talzin only have 1 win, but be a runner-up 5 times.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That must feel bad for Kylo and Talzin. I'm sorry, guys. But still good. And it's interesting, too, to see that the runner-ups almost seem to be dominated by heroes. Like, they're at least right there. I mean, I don't have to tell you to say heroes have been winning a lot, but they're still in that position of, that top 5 for them were heroes.
Yeah. No, for sure. Again, that's, at least it's not the same hero deck. It's all over the place. And it's not one color. Like, I thought at the beginning of this meta, I was like, blue is going to come out and it's going to stomp everybody. And I was like, blue, every color, there's only 3 colors, so you're going to see every color. But I just thought blue was going to push beyond any path that everyone else was at. But it's not. I mean, you see plenty of decks. Poe Hondo, what is that? 4 Poe Hondos, 3 Sabine Ezras. I mean, neither of those have blue, and they're both, that's 7 of the runner-ups right there. So that's it. They showed me that I was wrong. So
I mean, I think the top decks, and I think the deck that wins Worlds, of course, has to do with the pilot too. I know, but I still think the top deck is going to have blue in it. I don't see a way in which a deck, like, I don't think any of those decks are that good to the point where they can consistently go through Worlds and not have any type of blue. I mean, even going back to the winners, I mean, there was Ayla in the Hero Vehicles, there's 7th Sister in the OTK, there's 7th Sister in the Boba, there's Yoda in the Yoda Hondo, and those are the top 4 decks, right? There's 8, those are 18 of the winning regionals all have blue, and those are the top 4, like I said. So to me, I just don't see, as much as I wish there was a more variation in it, I still think blue is, the best color. It doesn't mean the others still can't come back and make noise, but blue's just top.
Yeah, and I think it's that way because it has, a bunch of things going for it. I think, it's got consistency. It's got Force Illusion in every blue deck. It's going to add a ton of consistency to keeping characters alive. It's got good removal packages on both sides. And I think most importantly, it's got cheap, elite, really good characters. It has Ayla, it has Yoda, it has 7th Sister, it has Talzin. All 4 of those are like probably 4 of the best
14
characters,
and below.
if not the best characters in the game. And they're all 14 or below for 2 dice, or God forbid, 7 Sisters, 3 dice. It's just that's why you're seeing them so much. And I get it. It's just no other faction, no other color can compete with the elite like powerhouses that blue has right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, with 12 points, you get consistency with Ayla, with 3 damage sides, and the special that can turn other dice. You get Yoda, who obviously has 2 specials that can focus and a double focus in and of
No
itself.
blanks.
Then you have no blanks. Seven Sister has 3 dice, and Talzin obviously has that ability. She almost has like a 3rd die that's an instant focus. So, and it's just, I just think Blue's in a good spot, and I don't think I had to tell you that. And as you look through the top 4, I'll just say the top 4 most appearances is Hero Vehicles, and then top 8, the most out of those is Poe Hondo. And I think it's good. I even think top 8 is a little bit like not accurate to really the overall, which sounds weird because this data is overall. But there was like one tournament somewhere in Europe. Don't remember. Sorry, Europe. You're just one big place to me. Basically, like the top 8, like all 4 of those decks were Poe Hondos. And that just like really just made them shoot up. And obviously at limited data, however many regionals there ended up being, it was just like, that's obviously going to put them at a point where they started running away. It just seemed like everybody at that regional ran Poe Hondo.
Tips the scales a little heavy. Oh man.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, that's that. And I'll just read the top 5 again of the decks that made the most appearances in any of the above ones. So this doesn't necessarily mean they were the winners, but these decks appeared the most in top 8 and above. The first one is Hero Vehicles with 25, Poe Hondo with 24, Boba 7 Sister with 19, Kylo 2 Talzin with 17, and Obi-Wan Maz with 15. So those are the top 4 appearances in top 8 or above. So again, good. And as I said, I think Hero Vehicles is so viable, not just because it's a good deck, but because it's cheap. Anybody into the game can really assemble that with a lot of legacy stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the only one I'm really shocked about still was, like Kylo Talzin having that much. I thought when I first saw that deck, I thought we'd see it a little bit. I can't believe we saw, what'd you say, 17 in the top 8? That's a ton. That's a ton of
top 8 or above, yeah. So 17 appearances in the top cut, I guess, is what we could say. But yeah, no, that's still crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big number for me. I'm shocked they had that many there.
Yeah, I mean, Kylo, I guess you really just have to look at him as that if you hit the ability, you could almost view it as, I get to look at your hand, and if I guess right, I happen to get 2.
Yep.
Or look at a card, if I guess right, I happen to get 2 damage, rather than building him around that. Because yeah, you look at the top decks, I mean, Ayla, Rose, Ezra, good luck getting that color right.
Yep.
Like if you get that right, you are lucky. Like it's not, not anything other to do with that, because they run all 4 colors. Like they have a lot of gray in that deck. They have a lot of red. They have a lot of blue and yellow. Like it's all good. And the Poe Hondo is pretty evenly split. Boba 7 Sisters pretty evenly split. And I would even say the updated versions of Obi Maz with Run Interference and all those other cards, like they've got an even split. So, but it's a solid deck, man. If they get a chance cube down early and make money, that's a scary deck to deal with.
Yeah, no doubt.
Cool. All right, so that's that for the decks. But now I want to talk about winning characters, and this is important too, as obviously, as we talked about, 3 of the top 4 most winning characters are blue, and that's 7 Sister, Ayla, and Yoda, as we talked about. So I'll read through the winners. I won't read through them all. I guess we'll go down to. We'll do top 10. I guess I think that makes sense. All right, so. The 7th Sister has won a regional 10 times. Ayla has won 8. Ezra has won 7. Yoda's won 7. Sienna Rhee has won 5. Hondo's won 5. Night Sister has won 5. Rose has won 5. And Boba Fett has won 4. And Poe Dameron number 2 has won 3. Yeah. So those are the top 10. And to me, I mean, that's a pretty even big drop off between 10 and number 5. Or sorry, 10 and number 5. Number 1 and number 5.
Yeah.
Because number 1 has 10 and number 5 has 5. And that's, almost half. There's such a big drop off between that. And that's 7 Sister down to Sienna Rhee. Yeah. And obviously Sienna Rhee's only there because of 7 Sister.
Yeah, exactly. And same with the Night Sister. It's like in all those characters that you're looking at, like characters under 14 points for elite versions, like most of those characters, and it's, it's just, that's how the game is. A lot of 3 wide decks, and a lot of them are doing good. So.
Yeah, and you can obviously pick out the pairings in this too. You get your 7 Sister Boba, obviously that, but Night Sister and Sienna Rhee, it's also bringing up. And then Ezra is obviously going with Ayla, and he has a few points from other places with Sabine also. Yeah. But then he also pairs with Rose and Ayla, as I said. Yoda could go with, those Heroes 2, he's popped up in a few vehicle decks, and then of course he goes with Hondo. So it's like you could just tell this top clump is still just a lot of decks in different formats, but it's still just really strong characters.
Yeah, I like to break it down because it really shows you, like, yeah, some of those are standouts, like, Sienna, like, in your instance, there's not like a 5 wide that she's being featured in. It's mainly just the Seven Sister Bro TK deck, but like it's still cool to see the stat and see where the characters are lying, and which, if your favorite's up there, and who's making their way through the top cuts. It's pretty cool.
Yep. All right, so I will do again what I did for the end, where these are the amount of times the character made the top cut. Whether they finished in top 8 or they were the winners, this is the total for them. So Ayla starts out with a total appearances in top cut at 48. She's appeared 48 times in different versions of decks. Yoda's 43, Ezra's 41, Seven Sisters 39, Hondo is 36, Poe Dameron number 2 is 32, Mother Talzin's 29, Rose is 26, Kylo Ren 2 is 24, and Sabine Wren is 21, and that rounds out the top 10 of that. And oh my gosh, again, the drop off is just so quick from Ayla, Yoda, and I mean, even from Ayla to Seven Sister, that's 10 different decks, or 10 times that Ayla has appeared in top deck that Seven Sister hasn't.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just crazy. Like, I don't think Ayla is at the point where she needs to be changed. Like, she's just a really good character. We're 4 sets in. She's low cost, good. I don't think she's like a negative play experience. She's good, but as you can tell, other decks are still winning and doing well.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to me that she's so versatile that she appeared 48 different times in a top cut at a regional.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's something Tommy should be happy hearing, because that was his biggest thing. Like, Yoda and Ayla both got spoiled or whatever, and we were talking about him on here, and Tommy right away was like, I think Ayla's bonkers. He looked at that right away. I think everyone saw Yoda, and every single person who saw Yoda was like, wow, no blanks, constant special chaining, constant, getting what you want out of your dice. But I don't think everyone saw Ayla right away and said, amazing, should be in so many decks. And I think everyone saw her and just said, wow, seriously, like, a stacked character, super good across the board, health-wise, damage-wise, but to see her 48 times that's just impressive.
Yep, absolutely. But it's funny. We'll go down to the bottom, and I'll give a few shout-outs to some other characters that made it in. Shout out to my boy Saul Guerrero.
Let's go.
Stay strong, my brother.
Stay strong.
He appeared one time, and it was a top 4, but it was a regional somewhere that isn't America.
I love it.
Only had a cut to the top 4. Shout out to Bazine.
Let's go.
One appearance also. Han Solo, my boy, had 1 appearance. Wookiee Warrior 3 times. Jar Jar 3 times, man.
Jar Jar.
Greedo was out there 3 times. So there's a few characters rounding out that bottom part.
Yeah, I like seeing Thrawn 5 times, seeing that Thrawn Talzin deck come back. Thrawn got he had such like a high moment with Unkar, and then he got the nerf like hammer super fast. So it's good to see, a character like that finding another partner, making their way through some wins. And
one I find interesting too is that Rey 2 ended up finishing with 10 appearances, and that's really 10 appearances over 2 weekends. Because if you think about it, nobody played her until Bobby Sapphire from the Hyperloops piloted Ayla Rey to the top table at Connecticut. Like, nobody even gave her a chance or gave her credit or anything like that.
She might have made like 1 Zeb Rey 2 deck, maybe. I don't even know if that was happening back then or not, but that's the only other
single die Zeb?
I'm sorry, this is Rey 2. I'm thinking Rey 1. I'm an idiot.
No, yeah. So Rey 2. Rey 1 only appeared 6 times, but yeah, she was probably the original Rey was probably like a Zeb Rey, or Padawan, even Padawans. And I know Zach Bunn at the first regional got in there with Han Solo.
Yep. Yeah, so the Rey 2s are probably like 1 or 2, wow, this is tough, guys. R2,
an RPDDP.
Yeah, the R4, 5, 7, probably 2 decks of those, and then the rest are probably, like you're saying, the Ayla. And that deck's strong, dude. The Rey 2 Ayla is that is a tough one to fight.
I weight my dice on a TTS against you with Rey.
Yeah, I've flipped the table multiple times against that, so thanks. Guys.
But yeah, so that's that with our round out. We'll have the decks and how they fared and stuff like that up on there. And lastly, this is the biggest, I think, difference, and that's hero and villain.
Wait, there's no way.
What are you saying?
We already talked about Saul Guerrero. Like, what else? What other surprises do you have?
Dude, I love Saul Guerrero. I have to go back and I have to look at what deck that even was. You know what? I could probably find it. Saw Yoda. It was a Saw Yoda deck made.
Let's go.
I bet you ready. I bet you that one person is like a patron to us, and we don't even realize it. He's literally
Yes.
hitting patron right now and unsubbing. I don't
Yep.
blame him. I don't know why he did it in the first place, but here we are. But here's the craziest breakdown, and it's the hero villain breakdown. And I think it started out like I think the biggest difference is the fact that it started out so strong in Hero's favor, and as it went on, it kind of evened out, but Hero kind of got that initial large bump of everybody just going shield heavy just because of that R2P2 meta. Everybody knew Hero worked, so they stuck with it. And looking at winners, Heroes had 20 and villains had 13. Runners up, there were 23 heroes and 10 villain. Top 4, there was 40 heroes and 26 villain. And top 8, there were 74 and 42. Oh, I'm sorry. That should be 11 in the runners up. Some of these are like real wonky with how it worked out because of the European ones with them cutting to a top 4. So it just kind of made those numbers a little wonky. And also I'm human and could have easily messed up and missed numbers and stuff like that because it's a lot of numbers and I slave over this and it's really tiny text working on my laptop and it's just not fun at times. So there's very likely
Jack hasn't seen the sun in like 4 days.
for real, man. There's a lot of data to shift through, and it's not like easy to just copy and paste those things. So all those numbers, let's add like a plus minus 2 to the variance.
Yeah, standard deviation of 2 to each one of those.
So there's definitely that. So I definitely messed up. But either way, like the total is 156 to 92 of heroes as compared to villains. And yeah, of course, if I messed up, it's still a large difference. There's still 60 number difference between the two, which again I think is disappointing. But as you said, go ahead, man. I don't want to cut you off.
I mean, that's closer than like if it was like 100 number difference. If it was huge, I'd say it's disappointing. But it's still like 100 roughly villain decks winning and 150 hero decks. So that's not the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm pretty happy with that. If I was FFG, I think that's a pretty balanced.
How are you going to round down for heroes and round up for villains?
But round up for
what is that?
Because I like villains more. Super easy.
But so that's that for our regional breakdown. Of course, those pie charts will be up and for you guys to look at and eat pizza with as you analyze the data and make yourself realize. But I figured this would just be a good one for us to put out there so you guys can even just see what the top decks are going to look like as we prep for Worlds. I mean, this is obviously useful for me just to see what's out there and see what's winning and see what's doing well with all these. Another thing I would also love is even just the entries of these decks. You know what I mean? Like how many hero vehicles were entered into tournaments. Like I would love to see that, but obviously that's almost impossible to record.
Yeah, that'd be a great number. So that again, this shows you who made it, who actually played it well, the pilots, but it's not always about the pilots. Like it's about what you're going to see. So it's about if that number is so high on like hero vehicles, like you said, if that's 40% of what people are entering, and even if only 15% are actually at the end of it winning, that's still, you're going to see more of that. It shows you that stat that, something to prepare for Worlds. So that'd be a cool stat, but you're going to have to deal with these pizza charts for now.
Dope. Yep. So that's that for our pizza charts, and we will move on to our Worlds breakdown, I guess we could almost say, as this we started last episode, moving through. We're going to go through deck lists, or not deck lists, but just character pairings and kind of what that deck is trying to do against you and what you should be looking to disrupt a little bit and maybe best ways to counter that deck. So the first deck we're going to start off with is Kylo 2, and we're going to approach both the Talzin pairing with him and the Anakin pairing with him. So do you have any initial thoughts about these Kylo 2 decks?
Yeah, I mean, I find them slightly underwhelming, to be honest, most of the time. If you're running a monocolor deck, then Kylo 2 can be very scary. If you're consistently taking 2 damage a turn from him, that is terrifying. But you can kind of control your hand, in some sense. And I remember you talked about this on a previous podcast where you would just hold 2 holdout blasters. And then, if you play 1 card, then he's looking at a 50-50 chance to even get that 2 damage. And I don't think Kylo's dice are worth 17 points without his ability. Like his ability is super key to him being worth that many points. So to me, I don't find it like, it's not the thing I'm going to go into a tournament being super terrified of unless I'm running a monocolor deck, which I haven't run a monocolor deck in a while. But also at the same time, I haven't played the Anakin version. If it's the Talzin version, Talzin is still my target against this deck. And it's just because Talzin's a battery and she just keeps the deck alive. She keeps it running. And she's easier to blast. She's only got 9 health. Kylo's stacked with 12, so that is one of his better features is 12 health. So I'd still go Talzin right off the bat.
Yeah, because especially if they get an early chance cube and you don't kill Kylo too fast enough, you're definitely going to be seeing a Rise Again. You're definitely going to be seeing Witch Magic and Force Illusion. All these cards that'll just make him stick around, and now you're kind of fighting this uphill battle. But as I mentioned with Sabine too, it really depended on my first hand. If my first hand was entirely yellow, I don't know what's coming up next, so I would generally just try to burn down Kylo. And I think Sabine's does enough damage to where I can deal with that and kill him quickly before they get off like a meaningful Witch Magic or a meaningful Rise Again. So that's definitely the way. And I think what you want to realize too about this is that they're constantly going to be, with the Talzin variant at least, they're always going to be focusing, and you just kind of have to be ready for almost max damage each round from that deck. But the thing that they're going to struggle with is resources. So if they're playing an upgrade, they're generally 3 costs because they're trying to get that odd number so they can focus, of course. So resources are really a big issue for them. And I think that's another reason why I kind of was able to outperform them also, is because I had Ezra stealing them all the time. So if you have a chance to disrupt them in any form at any point in the game, I would definitely at least recommend it to just slow them down. Of course, if they're getting chance cubes for 3s every time, that also means they're not focusing into damage. But of course, then they're ramping and setting up. But if they keep doing that, at some point, it's just going to be a waste of their time.
Yeah, and I think that if Talzin is... if you can't burst 12 damage, and even if they just get a Witch Magic, one Witch Magic can keep Talzin alive for 3 more seconds, and that's going to hurt. The other thing I was thinking of is just to be aware of overall is, and it kind of goes with what you're saying, I guess another side point that goes with what you're saying, is the resource thing. They both struggle with resources, but I think Anakin has another paid side, so that's 2 paid sides are in between both your characters, but then Talzin is all odd costed cards, and that's where she struggles with resources. As well as having Kylo's resource problem. So either one of them, it's a good call, Jack. Disrupt if you can. And then a few cards I just wanted to highlight real quick that you should be worried about are the difference between the decks really is the 2-cost cards that you can put into the Kylo Ren Anakin deck instead of the Talzin deck. And the one that's the biggest threat to me is No Mercy. It's a shout back to a meta that is long forgotten, but No Mercy can really just blast the character off the board very unsuspectedly. You can increase a Kylo 2 or an Anakin 2 to a 6 damage real quick.
So anybody that's curious, for anybody just getting into this from Legacies, this was an Awakenings card, and it's a blue villain, No Mercy. It costs 2 resources, and it's discard any number of blue cards from your hand, then resolve one of your dice showing damage, increasing its value by 1 for each card you just discarded. So in theory, you could, especially a lot of times was played on Big Vader. So you would use his 3, you play No Mercy, discard the last 4 cards, and you're hitting for 7, which is huge. And in this deck specifically, you could hit for 6 on one of Kylo or Anakin's dice, as you mentioned, because now they're putting those 2 costs in there, and they're running a lot more blue since they're not trying to fit some gray cards in there just to keep things at odd costs.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one I would just point out is I would actually point out the crossguard lightsaber. I feel like I've missed that a few times where I go into a round with having 1 health left on a character and I'm feeling, okay. I'm like, all right, well, I'm first, so I can roll this character in. I could get something out of their dice, and then or I could roll this character in. If I don't like what their dice is, I could replace a weapon with a redeploy weapon so I can make sure that redeploys. And they just play a crossguard on Kylo and get a quick kill. And you should be worried about that regardless of if Kylo's activating or not. So Kylo can just come in and activate and do 2 damage before you can do anything. But the crossguard is just another damage before they have to resolve any dice. So I don't think that's something that's super, super important, but it's just, again, more damage out of hand in this Kylo Anakin version than in the Talzin Anakin or the Talzin Kylo version.
Yep, and playing the crossguard on Kylo is where you're getting that damage from. So if you play the crossguard on Kylo, you deal 1 damage to a character, and that's from the 2-player set. So yeah, that's a good card. I actually hadn't played with it in a while, but I was on Jackalman Games doing a build destroy, which is like you have 10 minutes. Each of you have 10 minutes to make a deck, and then you just battle it out. And I did a single die Grievous with Elite 7 Sister, and I was just trying to jam my deck with 2 cost blue melee upgrades, and this was one of them. And it proved well. It did well.
Yeah, it's not a bad card. It's good special on it too. So
yeah, it's got good dice sides for even a 2 cost. It has 3 damage sides, one of them being a modifier and one being a special. but still good. And I think the biggest thing too you have to be ready for against the Kylo Anakin versions is they're probably going to try to abuse Maul Saber a little bit more. And Kylo Talzin, that's one thing too. If you kill Kylo first, you then really don't have to worry about Maul Saber, because unless they have like an heirloom also on Talzin, it's easier to dance around that 6 to 7 damage that Maul Saber can help bring. So just be ready for that, because Kylo with Anakin adds 2 more melee sides. But again, one of them's paid, so disrupting resources is tough. If they're playing a 3 cost and they're spending all their resources that round probably, then you're taking away 2 dice sides that they're going to be able to resolve, and they don't have truce. They have a fair way of doing it, and it's really just enrage. I don't think there's any other. They might play binds all things, so they can ramp towards the end of the game. But if they don't see those. Yeah. They don't really have too many ways of making money. Yeah, with them, Kylo is going to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more just coming out to hit you in the face. And be aware of Anakin's special and kind of looking in their discard pile to see if it's worth it. If they already have a lot of villain cards in there, then they might not have some in their hand. And you just have to be aware of that, because it feels bad mitigating Anakin die to later find out that they didn't have any villain cards in their hand to actually resolve it with.
Yeah, I mean, just honestly, they're probably only running like 10 villain cards. Like, there's so many good neutral blue cards that they need. They need Ancient Lightsabers, they need Force Illusion, Force Speed, Heirlooms. Like you said, It Binds All Things, Close Quarters Assault, any of those. That there's so many neutral cards they're going to have in this deck. So, like Jack said, if they're sitting with 5 or 6 villain cards already in the discard pile, you're already through that much. They might be just pitching the reroll that die because they don't have a villain option to get rid of. So.
Yep. And hey, if you wanna pitch Feel Your Anger to do 2 damage to me, I'm all right with that, because then that means you're not removing like 4 of my dice at one time. Yeah. So if this is sitting across, like I said, from me, disrupting resources against both decks is going to do you well, as they both will struggle for it. Because even having played with it in a limited amount of time, even just rolling Kylo Ren's 2-for-1 just feels bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So any last thoughts about the Kylo version of decks?
No, I just think, don't underestimate it. Like, I kind of talk lightly about it, but it can do a lot of damage very quickly if they see what they need. So if you get behind, you're going to probably stay behind. So just try to get out in front, try to blast the character off the board, and don't get caught with some of their quick little tricks. Agreed.
So that is that for that deck. And one thing to note too, and if I remember correctly, the Kylo Talzin version was much more prevalent in America, and the Kylo Anakin version was winning a lot more in the European competition. So that's something to note. I don't know how many of those people are going to be bringing that over to Worlds and stuff like that. I imagine we'll be seeing more Kylo Talzin than Kylo Anakin. I do think Kylo Talzin's a little bit better. So cool. All right, so that's that. And here's our second deck of the night. And this will be Obi-Wan Maz. And I kind of hate this deck. It's tough to play against, because it's almost like Obi-Wan he's like a Sabine with another point of health and a constant shield that he's able to give out. So he can definitely be tough. And again, I think it's tough to, even for me to say, coming from just like Sabine background, because I just always would go for the heavy hitter anyways, simply because I could usually burn their heavy hitter down before they could burn me out in a big little list, such as Obi-Wan Maz. And I think that's the issue with it too, is that it crumbles a lot, especially if Obi-Wan dies first. I mean, Maz, of course, might be able to close a game out with an heirloom if you even run it. I mean, Obi-Wan lists really aren't even running that much redeploy, because if Obi-Wan dies, it's generally the game anyways. But they've started to adapt that mold or build of a Sabine deck, as you had mentioned earlier, with the running interference. And then they don't do Never Tell Me the Odds, because that's a yellow character, but they'll do, some of them have Alter in there, which is spend 2, turn 2 of your dice, or Concentrate, which is spend 1 to turn 1 of your dice. You may spend another 1 to turn another 1 of your dice. So obviously they're really probably only playing Ancients, Vibros, and Shotos, and then maybe Rays. Maybe Obi-Wan's, like if just maybe one of those special ones, but really not that many. And they're also definitely going to put Force Speeds in there. And there's even been a few with like those Maz's Goggles trick, since they're really just trying to get those combo pieces out of other players' hands, because that special's pretty good. And so obviously they're going to be doing stuff like Vibro Knife, Tapping Runner, and Interference. You can't play a card, roll out. And if they rolled hot, or if they rolled even decently, that's damage that you really can't mitigate. And if they have a second runner interference out, then boom, they play Concentrate to then do that. So there's a lot of good options with them. And also that Force Speed on there too. If Obi-Wan rolls out and hits a 3 and say a blank, your next action, you're able to resolve that 3, and then or you could force speed, resolve that 3, roll out Maz, and then focus into the other 3. So they're a real combo-y. If you think that you're safe because Obi-Wan isn't showing damage, you're sorely mistaken.
Yep.
He's a type of character that even if he's just showing the 3, you have to be careful that he's not about to show 9. Like, you have to be constantly mitigating his dice. And the thing about him, too, is that he's very suspect to easy pickings with having a 3, a shield, and a resource.
Yeah.
So he's very suspect to that. So hero vehicles or any type of hero yellow is going to be able to fare well against his dice. But of course, like we said, the run interference is a real issue. But that's why I love Vandalize, and to a lesser extent, Rend. More so Vandalize.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Rend feels good when you get it, but it's just like sometimes that Vandalize is just better when you actually want to remove something that costs 1 and you can't with Rend. But I think
if you want to move 3PO or Ralliate or...
Yeah, exactly. They're all super important. I think people are going to be running Maz's goggles. I think it counters a lot of things with its special, but also just adds 2 more focus sides to Maz's ability. So when she rolls in, resolve 2 dice, and that's going to help getting just more consistency with her. Because I love when people roll in Maz and they're like, gun. And you're like, all right, well, resolve your 2 guns. It feels awful. Another thing, just like with the Sabine deck, you got to just watch out for hyperspace jump. If they're sitting on money and you haven't done much yet, if you have a way to get $1 away from them, or if you have a way to hit their hand with a probe or something like that, you got to do it then. Like, if you haven't rolled in yet, that's the time you got to do it, because they're going to roll out, they're going to resolve quick, and then they're going to try to get out of the turn. So you got to be really careful of that.
Yeah, even if they have 2 resources, right? You don't know if they have truce into
exactly.
a hyperspace jump. So that plays definitely online. And like I said, they're running Maz's Vault. They're going to run Outer Rim Outposts as the battlefield.
Yeah.
So you just have to be ready for those quick explosive plays that cost money. And if you're not looking for it, that can kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any experienced player at Worlds at this point, if they're running, for example, OTK, I think all of them will probably know not to price a failure one of your characters if a yellow hero deck is sitting on 3 resources.
Yes, hopefully, if you're doing that, honestly, don't do that with any deck if you're running price of failure. Don't go all in right there, because that's going to be bad.
Unless you're playing against me, then I think your first action, first turn should be to price of failure 7 Sister.
Yep, that should be it.
And ready nobody.
Yep.
Trust me. But this was a deck that I wasn't hot on in the beginning. I didn't really think it was that good. Didn't think it was going to make much rumblies. It just kind of seemed average until I think his name was Anthony. And at the Chicago Regional, I believe it was, where Obi-Wan Maz finally took a regional home. And just adapting Sabine's build to this is just, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like, I really love this build, and I think this is a legit deck. Like, this isn't just, like, I'm actually, after this build happened, I'm surprised it only won 1 regional after that and didn't make as much rumblings with this build, the run interference, Maz's Vault, and the hyperspace jump and concentrate and altars and stuff like that. It lost, I think, in Las Vegas. I think it came in second. So it has been still sticking around. I don't know. I was just surprised it didn't do as well. But I think, again, with the OTK decks running around, these big little decks are really going to struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, Jack started liking this deck once it kind of moved toward a negative play experience. Like, you know.
Once you can't react to what I do, I really, really enjoyed this deck. When you got it from the table and were salty you played me and I was sitting there smiling, I really just enjoyed this deck.
Yes. Just kidding. That's another thing to do. you gotta be.
No, I even mentioned that, like, I played Sabine because I thought it gave me a good chance to win, but I would always feel bad every time I played. Never tell me the odds in the run interference.
It's awful.
Unless it was you, Shane. Then I was like, screw this kid.
Yep.
At the time I first turned blue Talzin off the board with Throne Talzin.
Yeah.
That was a fun day.
That was the first time I ever flipped a table in real life. Yeah.
For real. But so yeah, it's super good. Definitely recommended. And it's something you'll be seeing. And especially with Vibra Knives, it'll be a lot of surprising unblockable damage. Like if you think you have a Force Illusion out, they could concentrate into 5 unblockable damage that you won't be able to stop. So definitely keep your eyes out for that.
Agreed.
But Shane, if you sit across from this, do you think you will go for Obi-Wan first, or do you think you will go Maz first? And you could also say what deck you're playing too, because that obviously will influence kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, that really matters. I am like all about killing support characters. Like I love killing support characters in most games, but it really just feels like you got to kill Obi-Wan here. I mean, unless you can, and I don't play decks that can just blast characters off the board. I normally play decks that are slightly more slow, that just kind of grind with it a little bit more. And in that sense, like you can kind of do that against Obi-Wan here. Like you don't against a Kylo, like we were saying, if they get witch magics off later, it's going to hurt, and you kind of get set behind. This has the shield problem, but like once Obi-Wan's gone, like the game's over. Like, and I feel like against this, unless you can just get 8 damage out like right away, and like you can just murder Maz instantly and turn off, easy pickings and some other good cards, like then I would go Obi-Wan here. And I'm not even sure. Like I'm not playing anything in particular right now. Um, but if I was playing like Kylo 2 Talzin, and that was like I'm sorry, not Kylo, Thrawn Talzin, which is what I was kind of playing competitively for a while, I'd probably start chipping away at Obi-Wan and just start ripping their combo cards out of their hand with Thrawn, because you have to worry a lot less about their combo cards, and you can just kind of start eating away at Obi-Wan little by little.
All right, so when you show up with your mill deck, who are you going for first?
Yeah, if I went with my mill deck, I would be hoping they would deal the 1 indirect from Jar Jar to Maz, ideally.
So yeah, this is a deck that I do like a lot. Like I said, now that's changed and added a lot of those yellow hero combo cards. But
Yep, and I think you just got to play on your toes against this a lot more than you do other decks. Like you should always be on your toes, always be ready for things. But this has the same package Sabine has in a slightly different variant, with concentrates instead of Never Tell Me the Odds. But you got to just be ready for those big turns. So stay on your toes. And
it's interesting because it seems a little bit tankier, but you also have to remember that Sabine has Impersonate that'll usually run and Second Chance that it will run.
Yep.
So while Obi-Maz is adding shields all the time, he doesn't have as much survival because some people aren't even running Force Illusion in this deck.
Yeah, that surprises me to see a couple lists
They'll keep
popping up.
Heightened Awareness, I think, has made a little bit of comeback in this deck because they're swimming in money. But
yeah,
so that's that could be 6 extra health if you pull both off, plus all the shields from Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So it definitely is a different kind of tankiness. But if it feels bad if you do Heightened Awareness and do Fright, they play Fright in their next action they get.
Yeah. Yeah, that just, it keeps them fast too. So that they get ambush off of that. They can keep going.
Yeah, they get the ambush. Yep. Cool. All right. So that's our little bit of analysis. Of course, we'd love to hear your feedback on how we're doing that. And, if you disagree, like if you come out here and you say, no, you absolutely have to kill Maz first, we'd love to hear that. Love to discuss it with you. And we could even, mention it next show and just give different opinions, because we're not going to stand up here and say that's the absolute best way to do it. It's just kind of our opinions. And you have to realize from the decks that we have been playing also too. So,
yep.
So we put a question out a little bit on our Discord and kind of asked any questions, and we got 2 actually. The first one I didn't write down, but I remember it. But Alan asked both questions, and his first one was, "What did Tommy name his son?" And our one friend Scott responded, "Tommy. He doesn't like to have to remember the extra things."
Yeah. Man. That's a 10 out of 10 question, Alan. Good work.
10 out of 10. And 11 out of 10 response from Scott.
Yes.
Well done. But the one question that Alan did ask that I think was a good one, it says, what do you want to do to make the Golden Dice podcast stand out from the other podcasts? And what do you hope to contribute to the community to help it grow? All right, Shane, do you want to take this one away? Or do you want me to answer first?
Yeah, I'll say what I was thinking myself. So two things I'm working on, or 2 things that we want to work on there. I want to start kind of showing a little bit more interest in writing some articles. I know we just made a WordPress, and I'm going to try to put up within a week or 2 2 series of articles. I want to put up a series based on like being friendly to new players, like how to get into the game, but not just like here's how you play the game, just kind of what I would buy to start, what set I'd pick, would I buy 2 2-player sets, whatever the case is for that, and how to manage your collection, like what you should be looking at to get a competitive edge a little bit, and just have fun at the same time. And I think Legacies is a great set to start, and that's what I would say. I would say start with some some of the starter decks. You don't need to get Rivals right away, but I would suggest if you have a drafting community, get drafting community. And I just want to kind of talk about that to help the newer players out there kind of have something to get from Golden Dice, because I think right now we have a great regionals and competitive breakdown, and I don't think a lot of new players who are going to tune into this are going to be getting a ton out of it based on just they're going to hear words and they're going to be like, whoa, what are they talking about? So I want to kind of bring that side to them so they can kind of work through that and then eventually get up to listening. And they should be listening to the podcast. It's a good podcast, and you guys talk about things that are relevant to everyone. We try to explain things, but just to really settle it back down. And then second, I want to talk about just weird things that I feel like talking about, random ideas. And the first that I'm actually working on right now is just like themes in games. So I've been playing Hearthstone for a long time. I haven't played in a bit actually, but I was playing Hearthstone for a very, very long time. And that game loves to feed on themes. And what I mean by themes is like an example in Destiny would be how Talzin makes you change the way you deck build. So Talzin makes you want to put all odd costs in your deck, and you get a benefit when you do. So when you put all odd costs in your deck, you get to flip a dice of yours every turn to whatever you want. So I want to talk about whether those themes in Destiny are actually worth it or not. It turns out Talzin's is worth it. You see Talzin all over. When the Inquisitor started coming into the image, and all the cards like Insidious and all these other blank mania type cards, was that theme worth it? Pans out, and it seems like it probably wasn't worth it. So those type of themes, I just want to kind of talk about the overall, like how designers want to push those themes and which ones to buy in on and which ones to stay away from. And I'll relate it to some examples from Hearthstone, which I've also played. So if that intrigues anyone, I'll be writing that this week. Other than that, I just want to also push some merch out. I know we'll talk about that soon. I'll let you answer this, but I know we have some merch that we really want to push out and get out there and just give out as easily as we can to everyone, just so they can rep some cool stuff.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I dig those answers. I think it'll be really good going forward, because especially as we start to get into spoiler season, fingers crossed that we get some spoilers. Please. Yeah, really. I'd also like to take the approach of us being able to look at those cards not just from a standard perspective, but really diving into trilogies and to the impact it could have in draft. So these are things we really want to start looking at, and Shane's definitely going to be able to help us with that, since he has the mad mind that he does and sees random things that nobody else would expect.
Appreciate it.
Not that they're good, but he just sees them. But so that'll be really cool. And for me, I really like just getting out there and talking competitive stuff and just kind of equipping listeners and just keeping them up to date about information. Like, we go through these decks and we just talked about even what is seen. And, now we're trying to go and let you know what some of these decks are trying to do against you and ways to combat it. Me, Tommy, and Shane will never sit up here and say that our counters to these decks are the right things. This is what you definitely should be doing. This is what you should be running. But we're always just going to put that information out there, talk about it. You could disagree, you can agree. But either way, I hope that you guys are able to just kind of learn something going forward into the meta. And as you go to, or as you went to regionals, as some of you will go to worlds and some of you will go to store championships over the summer, that you guys are just going to be equipped with information to ready to rock and roll and kind of know what you can expect out of the field, even though the field is as crazy and as wonkers as it is right now. So that's just my goal from Golden Dice. Yeah.
It helps even for the people who just don't have the time to get out there, but they make time for one big tournament and they want to try their best, and they'll need to know these things going into that. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, definitely.
Three definitelys.
That's just about does our podcast. Do you have any final thoughts on anything we talked about already?
No, I'm just excited to get these articles out, excited about the merch. Shout out to the Patreons. I think Jack's going to go into that in a second. And, I'm excited to see the next two decks that we break down going into Worlds.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to our patrons, Jonathan Moss, Alan Preston, and Jason Belts. So those are our three patrons. Thank you guys so much. The fact that you're even considering giving money to us and helping support this, let alone just listening to us, is an awesome feeling. And thank you guys for doing that. And as Shane had mentioned, we're looking to just build up our Patreon. We're really trying to fine tune what we want to even necessarily do. This is still new to myself, new to Shane, new to Tommy. So if there's something that you guys are looking for, or like you think is a good reward for Patreons to get, or there's something that you're looking for from us that we're able to give to you guys, just let us know. We're open to all ideas. Nothing's set in stone. We're still trying to figure this all out. And as of right now, right now we have the mats up going, and they look really sweet. I have to say, unbiasedly.
Yeah, no, they're
okay. Maybe some bias, but
dope.
I love them. They look real sweet. It came out really nice. They're on Twitter and Facebook if you want to take a peek at it. And they're also on the Patreon page. So it's definitely something for you guys to check out and look at. And also in the future, we've been talking about alt arts, and we finally have in motion some Han Solo alt arts in the making. We've talking to artists. We're getting that stuff working right now. So yeah. I'm excited about that. And with Solo coming out and with us being Golden Dice, I just felt like Han Solo even if the new one and the old one aren't super competitive, I just felt like it was a good first card.
Yeah.
Nobody else is really making Han Solo, so
Yeah, now's the time.
exactly. So that's that. We got Facebook, we got Twitter, we got YouTube, we got a WordPress coming out. That'll be up and posted in time as we start to get stuff and kind of push out a few articles. You'll see us updating that. And of course, you can get the links to that from Twitter and Facebook as well. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to iRebel and Jedi Geek Girl. The information that we used was taken from her Road to Regionals. And as we go through, I've been talking with her a lot, and she's been super helpful of getting this information and working with her. And she basically gets all the winners and all the top eights, and I just am the one that condenses it down into these statistical and character breakdowns and deck breakdowns exactly. And talking with her, we're looking to do that for Store Championship Season 2. So you'll be getting some stuff from us. We'll be able to you'll be able to come here, just stay up to date about Store Championship stuff too, as I understand, but that's still in the works. And yeah, so that's really cool. So shout out to her for putting all this stuff together, and what she does for the community is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's a ton of work by her, so really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. I can barely keep afloat with like a podcast a week.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's that. And lastly, if you're looking to buy some singles, you can head over to Top Deck TCG and use the promo code Golden Dice 10, and you will get 10% off your discount. Like I said, they still got plenty of cards over there. I bought like 5 or 6 easy pickings for like $1 each. Well worth it, because that goes in every hero deck, yellow hero deck I play.
Yep.
And at a time I had like 3 or 4 made, and I didn't have enough easy pickings. I was like, I need more of these cards. It definitely works out. So if you're looking to add some stuff over there to your collection, it's definitely a good place to stop by and to use our code at. Any final thoughts, Shane?
None from me. Just excited to be here, excited to be back, and excited for next week.
Tommy, please come back.
Monday,